So imagine you're a girl from 1960s Japan and your dad is in unimaginable amounts of debt, so he makes the most logical decision to pay off the debt by marrying you off to a furry prince. That's basically what happens to Shizuku Hinako in Silent Hill F. And it's terrifying because this isn't just horror made up for the game, it's rooted in very real parts of Japanese culture: arranged marriages, family debt, honor, and the pressure to obey no matter the cost. Silent Hill F doesn't just scare you with monsters, it scares you by showing how a family, friends, and even a husband can become the real demons. Section 1: Hinako's World. The story takes place in 1960 Japan, a time when the country was modernizing fast but still deeply tied to its old traditions. Our protagonist, Hinako, is basically stuck in the middle of all of this. Her father sees her not as a daughter but as a commodity. To him, she's not Hinako, she's quote-unquote marriage collateral. She tries to arrange her marriage to Kotoyuki, also known as the Fox Marks Prince, to settle his debts. Imagine your dad saying, "Don't worry honey, I found your husband, but also he's my loan repayment." And here's where Silent Hill does what Silent Hill does the best: turns those psychological scars into literal horror. The red floral fungus spreading across Hinako's body, the grotesque enemies, all of them aren't actually real. They are happening inside her head, acting as a metaphor for tradition, her twisted views of marriage, shame, and the suffocating grief of obedience. Japan has flowers like the red spiral lily, tied to funerals, death, and final farewells. In Hinako's case, the flowers bloom on her as if to say, "Congrats, you're beautiful, but you're also doomed." And to cope with this seemingly unavoidable fate, she created two versions of herself, one being the obeying version that listens to her parents, and the other one being a rebellious version of her. But the funny thing is, if they don't agree with each other and get what they individually want, they will be doomed. First, let's say the furry version of her gets what she wants, aka the marriage with the Fox Prince. Section 2: Scenarios. Scenario number 1: marriage with the Fox Prince. Now let's talk about this so-called Prince Charming, Kotoyuki. At first he comes across like some idolized noble guy, but very quickly his true nature slips out. He's manipulative. He tells Hinako basically, "Don't worry, from now on you don't need to think, just follow my commands." That's not love, that's control. Silent Hill F uses Kotoyuki as the perfect metaphor for a traditional arranged marriage. The husband is not a partner, he's the boss, and Hinako, she's expected to obey. It's horror that comes straight out of cultural expectations, women existing only to serve the family, no matter how they feel. Okay. So the rebellious one is right? Scenario 2: Rebellious Hinako's Rampage. Rebellious Hinako thinks she has her friends to help her, right? Yeah, no, she trusts them, but they end up betraying her too. Shu, one of the guys close to her, gives her red pills to reduce quote-unquote stress. He frames it as a way to help, but in reality, it gets her addicted and weakens her. And she quickly understands that this fucker doesn't care about her. He just wants her to get addicted and constantly buy pills from him. If she goes down this path, she will inevitably unalive her parents and go full psycho. This is another layer of Silent Hill's genius: addiction, manipulation, betrayal, all under the marks of quote-unquote friendship. And for Hinako, every person she should be able to rely on, her dad, her husband, her friends, turns out to be another chain holding her down. Okay, then she can just run away, then fate will decide the rest at that point. Yeah, that won't work through. Section 3: Even fate isn't on your side. You know what's worse than being betrayed by your family, sold into marriage, and manipulated by the people you trust? Finding out that even the universe itself is in on it. Hinako's life isn't just a series of cruel accidents, it's prophecy. She's bound by something called her divine fate. And that fate, to protect the entire town of Ibisugaoka from a supernatural curse by sacrificing herself. Sounds noble, right? Wrong. Because the way she quote-unquote saves the town isn't by living a happy life or being celebrated as a hero, no. She has to marry Kotoyuki, the Fox Prince, the guy who sees her as nothing more than an obedient doll. She has to give up everything, her happiness, her freedom, her humanity, all so everyone else can go on pretending that life is fine. This is why Silent Hill F takes a sledgehammer to the idea of destiny. In most stories, fate feels like a guiding hand, something that gives your suffering a purpose. Here, fate is the final betrayal. The game is spinning, "Oh, you thought you had a choice, cute." But this was written for you long before you were born, and that's what makes it so horrifying. Because no matter how much Hinako resists, no matter how much she suffers, the outcome's always the same. She becomes the sacrifice, the divine shield of the town, and in the process, loses herself. Or at least she would have if humans weren't such stubborn bastards, to say the least. You see, my friends, there are a total of 5 endings in this game. Only one of them is a true and happy ending. And that's exactly how our story will end. Section 4: The best scenario, the true ending. In a true ending, Ibisugaoka in silence, Hinako and Furry Hinako finally understand each other. They come to an agreement. They finally respect each other's dream, leading to enlightenment. This time Hinako also leaves, but not as a selfish act. No, this time she knows the consequences of her actions. That leaving would mean people of the town would also have to leave. But she doesn't hesitate. She says sorry internally and leaves with bearing the responsibility of her actions. And Silent Hill F ends in a peaceful silence, not triumphant victory, not fireworks, but a heavy, eerie silence because freedom doesn't erase the scars, it just means Hinako survived them. That's the real tragedy and beauty. You can escape the marriage, you can reject the culture, but the trauma doesn't disappear. Then again, just because the trauma doesn't disappear doesn't mean it defines you. No, what defines you is your actions afterwards. Will you loathe about it and feel sorry for yourself, or would you use it like Shimizu Hinako did to be a better person and to make sure nobody else suffers like you did? So yeah, Silent Hill F isn't just a game about flowers and fungus. It's about Japan's cultural Silent Hill. Family deaths turning daughters into objects, husbands demanding blind obedience, friends betraying trust, and traditions that destroy lives in the name of honor. And when you reach that true ending, when Hinako finally saves herself, the game finally whispers, sometimes the scariest monsters isn't in the shadows, it is the culture smiling at you, telling you this is quote-unquote normal. That's why Silent Hill F is so terrifying, because the horror isn't just in the game, it's in real life.